Welcome to the Monday night Zoom call, everybody. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to do the *Inc. presentation. Do you want to do that on the slideshow, Rhonda? There we go. The *Inc. presentation, which was written by Ron Willingham, which is the integrity selling system and the bestseller. And Ron wrote Slim Up and Live for Shackley years ago, and I became a certified facilitator for the program. And it really works out really well. People want to know, what do I use for a script? How do I tell people? And we've got so many really great scripts, great products and everything else. We just got to know what to share to that person. And Ron used to do a demonstration, or when he opened up, he would say, what would you think of a doctor if they walked in and they said, you know what, I'm going to give you a prescription for some penicillin today, and and I think you need a neck brace. But you went in because you sprained your ankle. You need to approach, you need to ask questions, interview people, and demonstrate. And that's what *Inc. stands for. It stands for approach, interview, demonstrate, validate, negotiate, and close. And if you go through the sales system in that aspect, you'll sell every time. Okay, Rhonda, can you get the next one? Oh, okay. Now, the *Inc. system, I went through that and what *Inc. stands for now, but if you look at the bottom graph there, and you see the AIDINC, first A stands for approach. The I stands for interview. Then the D is demonstrate. The next I is validate, a little bit of writer's license, VALIDATE, then negotiate and close. Now, if you look at the size of the boxes, you see the A is very skinny. Then the I, which is the interview, is longer. Demonstration, and you can see, so you can see that the interview is where you spend most of your time. Now, if you look at the black area, and if you look at the black area and you look at the colored area is the amount of time you spend talking, and the black area is the amount of time they spend talking. So you can see on an approach, it doesn't take that long to approach somebody, and it's pretty much you ask a few questions and then you listen to them. The interview, you're asking questions. The thing is, you say God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in that proportion. That's what it is. So what we're doing is we're going to approach somebody, and we're going to go through the A. We're kind of going to go over all of it, but really focus on the A and the I tonight, the approach and the interview. And that's the basis for everything. But so when you approach somebody, it's going to depend on, and we'll go through this stuff more in depth over the next couple of weeks. But, if it's a good friend, are you approaching them on the phone? How are you going to approach those people? If it's a good friend and you haven't talked to them for a while, don't hem-haw around. People can see through that. And we'll go through some of that stuff. And then, okay, Ron, the next one. Okay, so the action guides on the approach. When you approach somebody, number one, tune the world out, those people in, put them at ease, make them feel important. That's why you're there talking to them. And hold eye contact with them. Don't be looking away. Don't be looking out on your cell phone, and have a purpose or have it planned out. Now, sometimes when I approach people that I just happen to be, and Frank might have a story here, I'm going to plug him in at the end about how he approached somebody at the fitness center. It can be spur of the moment, but it's just, you got to know, you got to be able to approach people. But you also got to be able to approach people. And most people, and I'm going to go back to the 80. Rhonda, do you want to back up one slide, please? If you go back to that bottom slide, the *Inc., most people in Shackley and other companies, they come in and they'll approach somebody, and then they're going to start either demonstrating or validating it. And then they're going to go back and they're going to interview and find out what they really need. And then they're going to try to negotiate and close. You can't do it that way. You have to follow the steps in the order. If you start demonstrating something and you haven't interviewed somebody yet, What script are you going to use? What demonstration are you going to use? It's like the doctor recommending penicillin, but you got a broken ankle. Or how are you going to validate? What are you going to validate if you don't even know what they want yet? So it's really important. Okay, Rhonda, next. I'm sorry. I just kind of get back on there. But anyway, the approach, if you turn somebody off at the beginning, you will never sell them. So you need to approach them the right way. You need to establish the rapport, and you need to use what feels good about you. That's why, go back to like we were talking about the internet and groups and stuff. I have a hard time approaching somebody on Facebook or social media. I can approach somebody real easy if I'm talking to them, if I'm around them. So anyway, next slide, please. I got to make sure I stay on time here too. Okay. The interview. To me, this is the most important part. All the steps are important, but to me, the interview is the most important part of the process. And in the interview, you want to ask questions that start with the words who, what, why, where, how, and then the third one is tell me about. So if you start asking questions that start with who, what, why, where, how, or tell me about, those aren't yes or no questions. They draw out information. If you're asking for referrals, who do you know that wants more energy, or who do you know that's looking for an extra income, or what don't you like about exercising, or what's the hardest thing you have about losing weight, or how did you lose all that weight, or what would you like about, those questions get conversation going. And so remember this: who, what, why, where, how, or tell me about. And then identify the problem with them. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to get my kids to go to college. I can't afford it, and then so you're telling me you're looking for an extra income or an extra way to make some money. And they say, yeah. Well, I'm here to help you, but there might be something that's worked for me. I'd love to sit down and show you. And Frank's really good about these. So you're interviewing people to find out their wants and their needs, and people will go more for their wants than their needs. So again, and then down to the interview questions: what might you ask when identifying a primary need? What can you ask to uncover? Come up with these questions. Now, in the email that I sent you announcing this, there were some things. Now, come up with some questions that people ask you that get normally asked, like, what are your products like? What do you, come up with an answer for it. Are you climate neutral? I had somebody say something to me the other day about, Shaklee needs to be green. What do you mean? We're the first company ever in the world climate neutral. So come up with some answers for these things. Okay, next one, Rhonda, please. Okay, motives and emotions. People's wants and needs can be driven by motives and emotions. I'm not going to read all these to you, but people's emotions overrule their logic. And you want to connect with people emotionally. And to me, this is again why I'm so much better one-on-one talking to somebody, because I just ask them questions over and over and over. I want to know what their hot buttons are. I want to know, are they worried about their skin complexion? Are they worried about their diet? Are they worried about their chemicals? And you can, if you listen, and if you get good at asking questions and you listen, then you'll know what to demonstrate. All right, Rhonda, next one. So demonstrate to fill their wants and the needs of their prospects. I'll give you an example. When it was not too long after I was taking this training, and I was going to get my second Shaklee bonus car. And I went into the Jeep dealer and I said, Shaklee's buying my bonus car. I don't have to worry about, I wanted to get a new Jeep. And I said, and I went in and I said, I want a bright red, a bright blue, bright yellow, soft top. I want it to stand out. I want it to be flashy. This was a long time ago, CJ7 days. The salesman took me out and showed me the one that was on sale. It was a tan Jeep Wagoneer. I just said thank you and walked away. I went up the road and brought a Bronco. I mean, I told him, I said, I don't have to worry about the price. He didn't listen to me. Had he showed me the bright blue one over in the corner, I probably would have bought it because I got a bright blue Bronco. So listen to people. And then when you've asked the questions and you know what they're looking at, that's when you can figure out what presentation do I want to use. Because we got all kinds of presentations. There's not a one size fits all. We got the Power One, we got the Bolt Sheet. If somebody's interested in losing weight, I'm probably not going to show them the Power One or the Bolt Sheet yet. Probably going to show them a weight loss presentation. Somebody's worried about their skincare. I'm probably going to talk to them about skincare and not about cleaners. If somebody's worried about the environment or the kids and their asthma and their the chemicals, then I'm going to talk to them about the cleaners. And there's video presentations and everything. So when somebody says, what presentation do I use? It depends on what interview you did or what on the interview, what their needs were. Okay, next one, please. Okay, when do I begin to validate? That's after you found out and you've demonstrated. Then the validation stuff is like, the validation would be like the landmark study. We're the first company ever climate neutral. We got so many things. We got 100, the Olympic athletes. It's really easy to validate Shackley. But until you've gone through the approach and the interview, and then you've demonstrated something, I mean, if somebody's worried about nutrition, validating them on the first company ever climate neutral, our carbon free, they don't care. They're worried about nutrition. If you can see how all these building blocks kind of lead to each other. Okay, Rhonda, I'm rattling on. I want to revalidate when people say, when people can trust you, that's when you start validating. When you know they trust you, they believe in you, then you start validating and they have confidence in you and your organization. So, okay, next one. 6 magic words, what this means, what this means to you is, and that those are powerful. And then features and benefits, this is, facts tell, stories sell, benefits sell, features don't sell. Because the car has air conditioning, that don't make any difference. It's the idea that it cools you off. That's what makes the difference. So just remember those things, and the features tell and stuff sell. So anyway, then we'd go through the lasting impressions. What's most important to you? And this is getting into more of the integrity selling. So, all right, that's enough with that, I guess. Let's go back to any. All right. Okay, flew through that. I don't know whether that was as organized as I wanted, but if you understand, this is the simplest, and there's all kinds of sales stuff out there. But if you just remember to approach the people, and that's going to vary, whether it's somebody that you just met in the grocery line, somebody that you've known for years, or somebody like Frank that met, and I'll let you tell your story about your CFL football player that you met at the gym. It's all about talking to people, asking questions, and then demonstrating for that. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. Frank?
Go ahead, Linda. Linda, you got to unmute, though.
You can't telepathically read. Oh, okay. I just wanted
Somebody
to make
told
a
a telepathic joke earlier. I'm sorry.
I know. I know,
recording.
but I can't. Okay. No, I wanted to make a comment that I thought was something that just was kind of like a light bulb going off for me. I tend to worry about the questions, what are the right questions? How are the right way to ask the questions? And what I found helped me in your presentation today and last week the most is you telling me examples, real life examples, like going into the doctor and he wants to give me a penicillin shot and my ankle's broken. I can relate to that. That puts me in the customer's position. And your story about the car is brilliant. I mean, I think what's going to help me come up with the questions is putting myself in their place and understanding how they're feeling, because I felt for you with that broken ankle and he's given you a dang penicillin shot, you know? I mean, that made me mad.
Yeah, but that's
And-
what was on sale.
Well, but I mean, if we can put ourselves through real life stories like you're sharing in the training, if we can put ourselves in the customer's side of the, position and how they feel and how things would make them feel, I think the questions are going to come naturally.
Hey, that's a book, and I saw you raise your hand. That's a book that you might want to get online. Another one that Ron Willingham wrote that's the name of it. Hey, I'm the customer. And that really goes into it. If we put ourselves in, because sales isn't doing something to somebody. A good salesman is not trying to do something to somebody. A good salesman is trying to negotiate something that's beneficial to them. To me, that's why old school Shackley people have customers for 30, 40, 50 years, because we didn't go out and do something to them. We're there to service them and take care of them. And there's a huge difference in that, is that we're
Yeah.
here to help them to fill their needs. It's called need fulfillment selling. That's what this is 8 Inc. is. It's need fulfillment selling. We got your needs, we fill it, and people like that. We're a service business. All right, any Rhonda, Frank?
Well, so I'm going to put you on the spot, Linda, just a little bit, because I think this is what you said is great. And I think it's good for us to all think about, because the first thing that popped in my head when you said, that these examples are helpful and, about not knowing what questions to ask. Okay. When you're in a typical conversation and it's not about Shackley, you're just talking to a friend and they're telling you about things that are going on in their life. What do? You ask them questions and you listen because you're a friend,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So put that same hat on. That's the interview that Jeff talked about, right? So if we are doing the interview and not just going through the motions of I got to ask this question. Oh, now I got to like an interview, like if you go in for a job, if you just do the interview as a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and you're showing that you care, then those questions are just going to come natural.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's a really great thing for all of us to remember, whether you're seniored in Shackley and been around for a long time, or whether you're brand new to Shackley, because we all get a little caught up into what we know. And so we want to tell. And so asking the questions, we don't have to worry about the questions we need to ask. We need to listen and let the questions come to us automatically.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And Trudy, I saw you raise your hand. You just a second after this, but you hit the nail on the head. It's like when I was talking to the guy that owned that down at the Bend that owned the newspaper, and he's going to do my logo and stuff. This guy's got connections all over. He's 80 years old and looking at building $1 million new home on the lake. And he said, I might not get it done. He said, but I'm going to enjoy it. Well, it tells me, and he's been in the newspaper business here forever, and so, who knows what's going to happen, but he's going to hear about my business. But my point is, the whole time I met him and was talking to him and his wife, he really doesn't know a whole lot about me other than I have Shackley. I asked him questions. I know he owned the newspapers here in the lakes for 40 some years. Think he's connected? Probably knows a few people. I know he's looking at building a new $1 million home on the lake. And I just know that from the size of the home that he's looking at and the lot that he's looking at. And he might be lucky if he can get it done for $1 million. So I know he can afford our products. He's 80 years old and he looks like Sully, like he's about 65. So I know he's into health and taking care of himself. He still water skis and he's 80 years old. He rides a Sea-Doo. My point is, he knows I'm in Shackley and he knows I have a big Shackley business, but that's it. I didn't go into anything else. I didn't try to, he's into health and nutrition, I'm going to sell him Shackley today. I'm looking at the long range. Let's look at the big picture. So anyway, I'm sorry, I rattled on. Trudy, you had your hand up? You want to say something?
I'm going to talk to Rhonda. When you're in this conversation, Rhonda, at some point in the middle of this conversation, for me anyway, I can feel that they are starting to bristle. Like they think I'm going to sell them something. I'm not doing anything wrong by selling products, but yet people, at some point, I don't know what other word to say. It just, they bristle, they back up.
Well, that's very intuitive of you because you are ahead of the game with a lot more than a lot of people, because a lot of people just keep fire hosing instead of reading that body language. So that's very intuitive and very good of you that you are noticing that. So I would just jump right into it and go, okay, like I'm seeing a little resistance, and just know that, I'm only telling you this because I'm passionate about these products and I know what they can do. So, I don't want you to think I'm trying to sell you. I really just care. Like, show your heart. You've got a heart that you care and you want to help. And so maybe you come on a little strong, but as soon as you see it, acknowledge it and just call it what it is. Talk about the elephant in the room.
Good one.
Okay,
That's a good one.
And so if I'm talking to this girl about menopause and I have a great product and I felt her bristle, I had information in my purse I was going to give her. I was even going to give her a bottle of menopause complex, but I backed off. I just dropped it.
Okay.
Sounds
so
to me like
that's
you
good.
need to ask more questions before you get into the presentation part, but I'm not sure. So Rhonda, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, Trudy, I'm going to encourage you not to give your product away. And the reason I'm telling you that is I know you're doing it because you want to help people and you have a love and a passion to help people. And that makes perfect sense. And I used to be that person that would give a product away to someone to get them to try something. But when you give it away, you just took the value away from your product. Because if you don't value it enough to you do value it, but it's perceived as, if you're just giving it to me, you have to give it to me to get people to take it. No, you make sure you value your product so much that it's special. And so in that situation, if you saw her back up, say, I sense that you're kind of thinking I'm trying to sell you something, and I do have a great product, and because I just want to help you and I know it would help you. But if you're not, I kind of picking up that you're not interested in that right now. So can we talk in a week and just kind of check to see how you're doing, just
Okay.
ask permission to connect with her again
On that subject. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because see, we sing together, so I see her all the time. And I don't want to lose that relationship with her over Shackley.
Right. So when you see her, you're seeing, and after you say, how are you doing? And don't bring up Shackley at all. How are you doing? Just show your care.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Good question.
Like in the whole BNI thing that I'm in, and I've been building a relationship with these people for 2 years. It has literally taken almost that 2 years to really build that relationship. It takes a lot of contact before we actually make the sell. It's not the first time. And we tend to want to fire hose that first time because we're not sure we're going to get another opportunity. So I think this is a great lead into what Frank is going to tell us about his story, right?
Well, I will if we have time. I know we've run over, so
yeah,
we can
go
talk
ahead,
about
Frank. You go ahead and do that, and we'll wrap it up after this, and then if somebody wants to stay, we'll do that. But I kind of took too much time. Go ahead.
Okay.
Frank.
Well, let me just hit on a couple of points real quick, and I agree with everything you're saying there, Rhonda, and good questions that you're asking there. One thing I would probably say is we're always so concerned about the new people that we haven't got instead of the old people that we have and we know. Now think about that for a second. The people, and you've always been told this, plenty of people to build a huge business in Shackley or do anything else for that matter. You may not think it right off the bat, but that's why we have those things where you go back and you say, well, who do I know that does this, and this? But also, like say, you don't approach them and go, hey, I saw that your car is kind of beat up out there. Can I sell you a car? But to Jeff's point about this car sales, I went to buy a new car recently because mine had finally given out, my Shackley car I got that I loved, my hybrid Lexus from 10 years ago. But and I was at the dealership and I said, I want your best, who's your best salesman out here? And I asked the guy in the service department because I'd had a little problem in the service department, and he told me. And I went to get him, and it was Friday afternoon and he wasn't there, and I got another guy, and that guy basically, he didn't care. I told him what I want. I said, look, I'm going to buy a car, and and this and this. And it was like he wanted to go home that night, I guess. And so he took me out on a lot to see a car or so. And then my wife and I said, hey, no big deal. Just go on home and we'll get back with you. Well, we weren't going to get back with him. We came back the next week and I talked to the guy that was referred. And in a day's time, I bought a car from him because he was asking me questions and he was wanting to know what I wanted to do. And he was saying, hey, you talk about that air conditioning thing. I was like, well, I've got these heated and cooled seats, but I said the cool never really works. I said they're great for heating. And he goes, oh, well, you got to try the new car and try this. And I got in, I was like, oh wow, it is demonstrating. It was showing me what I want. I told him what I wanted and he fit it. We said, we want this color, we don't want this. I said, I don't like this car. I said, I want, they all have moonroofs, but I said, this one doesn't fit me. He goes, that's because this is one of those double moonroofs and it takes extra space. And I said, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So anyway, again, we don't have time to go into it tonight, but the guy at the gym the other day, I actually had 2 prospects over the last week. He's a trainer down there and I've known him for a year or more. We know him pretty well. My wife has talked to him about possibly doing some training for her at one point in time or whatever, but I just see him all the time and I see him working with people. And he was working with a guy the other day and they were in the same room and they started talking about protein. And the guy goes, yeah, I just can't get enough protein. I got to eat so much food. I consume 120 grams of protein a day or whatever. And I don't know what to do. I said, all I said was, and because I know the guy well enough. And I said, I said, I got a protein for you. And that's all I said. And then I dropped that. And then they went away and came back 20 minutes later and they were working out in the same room. And I was getting ready to leave and they were talking something about sports. And I said, and I found, because I never knew that he was an athlete and he was in the CFL, the trainer. He was a wide receiver and stuff. And I started talking to him. I said, oh, that's pretty cool. I said, yeah, I said, I'm kind of ancient, but I said back in the day, I was a pitcher and I said, I threw out at Arlington Stadium where the Rangers play now because the Rangers are in the playoff and stuff. So it just made a bridge. And, whether that leads into anything. Another guy is my Blue Cross rep for insurance the other day. And I was talking to him and we were talking about health. And he said he had some similar things as far as heart stuff and issues. And I said, yeah, I said, I've been around health all my life. And I said, because of Shackley. And he goes, Shackley? He goes, they're still around? I said, yeah. He goes, I worked for Shackley back in the 80s. I said, really? And 5 minutes later, he was like, yeah, he goes, I didn't know they were around. I said, yeah, they got great products. They're patented products. I go to my same stuff about, we got things called MindWorks and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I got to buy some of that stuff. Can I get it from you? I said, yeah. I said, I'm trying to figure out my new web page, which was true. I mean, like I was telling Linda the other day, I said, what have they done to my website? It's just, it isn't trying to sell them something. It's just making those relationships and then going back and then going from there. But I'll leave it at that for today. I got a couple other things, but we can pick those up next time.
We'll have time next week, but these are all, this is exactly what it is. And this is why I do better face-to-face than I do online or in groups and stuff like that, because I can just sit and talk to people, ask them questions, you care about them, and this is where I'm the best. So anyway, thank you all for being here. That's the 8 Inc. program we'll go through next week. We'll go through a little more in depth on it, but great questions, and thanks for all being here.
Thanks, Jeff.